Welcome to the Trey Swish experience. Please subscribe to the channel to stay connected, like the video to support, why not? It's free. Leave a comment to keep the discussion going, and share with someone who might enjoy it.
I am paying for this microphone.
What's up, everybody? It's your boy Trey Swish with another podcast episode. This is number 2, featuring Justin. And we've got Clayton coming back again from episode 1. This is Justin.
Hello, everybody. My name is Justin. I met Trey around... The reason I'm doing this podcast is because I met Trey around the 7th grade, and I basically kind of like I spent a lot of time with him, you know, from 7th grade to like 12th grade and a little bit like later, you know, many years, and so it was a very formative type of relationship in my life, and we grew very close, and we have an interesting relationship where like we kind of have the same type of connection, but we don't necessarily like hang out. Like even now we don't hang out. Like we don't really hang out. But when I do see him, like nothing's changed. So he's like one of those people that, you know, like.
I love that about our relationship because like at the end of the day, like I have like a handful of people that's like that. Clayton's like that too because I didn't see Clayton for a while. And I haven't seen you in a while, but, you know, we see each other. We just run into each other naturally because we live near each other. And what we do, we always pick up where we left off.
Yeah,
and
that's the good way to put it.
And the reason I was laughing earlier is because we grew up together at church. And so Justin was just a little shit back in the day, just how I was a little shit. And so, like, we grew up naturally together, maturing together. But, like, at the same time, we were still looked at in church as the shits, like the two shit stains.
And you're still like 3 or 4 years older than me.
I know, exactly.
That's I never had to quite say it. I can't necessarily say we grew up together because you were like way older. But
I was still a kid though.
Yeah. So
I took you under my wing because like I saw a lot of me and you, and we just clicked like right away.
And it's weird because when we first started, that's how it really was. It was more like you're like the older guy and I'm the younger. But eventually we started hanging out more as peers. It kind of weirdly transitioned that way.
I think like when I was like around like senior year, junior year, that's like when we like were almost like peers. Because me, you, Cole, we hanged out all the time. Shout out to Cole. I don't know if he's still playing baseball or not, but yeah, shout out to.
Oh, we shouldn't be probably saying full names on here.
Yeah, right? Probably not. But it is.
Good luck trying to spell the last name.
Yeah, for real. Don't stalk that guy, please. But yeah, man. Like I mentioned, so I really brought you on because I want to have like I'm trying to have a different perspective on each episode. You know, just reach out to my friends. You know, and see like where they're coming from in life, and just have a different perspective and just try to learn and have a good conversation. So that's really the main goal here. And I know we all three of us grew up the same church, and our paths have differed big time. And so for me, for instance, I went to our church, and then you know I graduated high school, and I was planning on just going to a JUCO, but my parents wouldn't let me because like Gainesville was like the drug capital in Texas or some shit, and they didn't want me to go to a JUCO, and they said, hey, if you go to this Christian college that everyone likes, you know, we'll pay for half your tuition. And I was like, well, shit, I can go to university, I can party, I can have fun, and half my tuition's paid for, and the other half I can just do youth ministry and I get that paid for too. So I was like, fuck it. And then I didn't probably go to church ever since I graduated high school, even when I went to that Christian college. And my faith in Christianity has wavered, but I've never became like a straight, I don't believe in Jesus or anything. I still have faith in Christianity. I just don't have a very strong participation, I would say. However, I still have, there's like always that faith that I want to have in something, like a higher power, just to almost like quell my morale, or just like to be like, it's almost comforting in a way, but also it's how I was raised. So I feel like I have a bias, but I went through phases in college where I thought I was an atheist, and I explored all these different like terrains. So really, I'm a lost person, so I don't really know where I'm at, and I'm just trying to find myself like that, in faith and spiritual, all that kind of stuff. but it's not like a huge emphasis in my life. You know, I'm just trying to get by, pay the bills, just have fun. So that's where I'm coming from. So you want to branch out and comment on anything?
Yeah. I think a lot of people growing up in our situations can relate with that. You know, I can relate with that.
Yeah.
You know, transition. I mean, my dad was a preacher.
Yeah.
You know, and then I kind of always questioned. You know, I was always questioning. You know, I would. Luckily, my dad wasn't like a Bible like banger type preacher. He's like an intellectual.
Yeah.
You know, he reads philosophy and stuff, and I was into that stuff. So we could have conversations. So it wasn't like my dad was a preacher, I was oppressed. It was not exactly that.
Yeah.
That road that a lot of people have. But I also went from, you know, Christianity, but kind of not really, and then into atheism, and then to something called deism. I think it was deism.
Is that where like you believe in a higher power, but you like don't believe in, you don't know what you believe in type
Well,
deal?
yeah, you believe like there is a higher power, and they usually kind of use the there's like some philosophical principle that Aristotle coined called the first mover, and it's kind of actually that was Voltaire actually, and
Who's Voltaire?
He's a French philosopher.
Okay.
I'm very rusty on my Western philosophy because
I'm just interested because
yeah.
we went through like Roman history, and so like I have just behind the scenes after our first podcast of me and Clayton, I've been like researching a lot of history. So like I'm gonna ask dumb questions just because I'm just interested in it right now.
I'll answer whatever I can to the best of my ability.
Okay, cool.
But just to state, like I used to be really into this stuff, like Voltaire, Descartes, Pyrrho, like all these guys, because it was like. At that time, the only thing that I had turned on was like the intellectual, like thinking, like logical, like going through the progressions, and so they're very brilliant. Like the stuff in the West is very brilliant at that their minds are very developed, and like their logic is so like, you know, like they like it's like the intellect is used as a knife, and you can like cut away at things that like don't actually like if you really examine your thoughts, like why do I think that doesn't even hold up. And so, like, but if you keep going with that, you start cutting away at all these concepts that you might have, and you realize, oh shit, like, what's really happening? Like, what is reality really? Yeah. And so I kind of was never super into Christianity for that because I'm sure they had that part of that aspect in the religion, and they had practices at some point.
But it's so surface level.
Well,
like,
but I feel like it's been watered down, and I feel like I'm a bit of a conspiracy guy, as you know, so I feel like it's kind of like the religion got kind of taken over by certain powers, and it's kind of used in it's kind of been hijacked from the original message of Jesus.
It definitely, I don't know a lot about it, but obviously there's just like stigma about the Catholic Church, and that obviously it's been like hijacked by a higher power. So like when you said that, immediately I thought of the Catholic Church, even though I don't know much about like that whole scenario. I think that's imprinted in like a lot of people's heads, like even that people that don't understand like history to a T, like me. Like, you know, I mean, so I could see where you're coming from that angle.
I mean, coming from that, like, I mean, from what y'all are saying, like, us as a human species have always had, like, three main questions, like, what are we, why are we here, and, like, what are we to do?
Yeah, those are essential questions, and many different cultures have many different types of answers to that. And so doing these types of podcasts, reading and researching starts to open your mind up to other perspectives. And that's part of being able to free think in this world, you know, like having multiple perspectives and not like being locked into that your perspective is the only perspective.
For sure.
Then there's no possible way that you could be able to like explore anything outside of whatever your conditioning was, which is the result of the education system, and you know, on and on and on. And we don't need to go there.
The snowball just keeps rolling.
Yeah, but like we even touched on that in the last episode.
That's how we opened up.
Yeah, but but that's the thing. That's the thing with that you could call it the dark forces, you could call it all the different types of things, but the whole idea is that it's being fed by your attention. So all these things are being put out into the news, all these negative stories. Why is that? Because it grabs your attention.
Yeah.
And that's all that you have is your attention. What you place your attention on, that's where your energy goes. That's what you invest in.
Yep.
You got to think of it like you have a certain amount of money that you're and you invest it like wherever you place your attention. And so talking about how fucked up, everyone knows the education system in America is fucked up. It's just trying to create workers to count coins, stay in between the lines. They don't want free thinkers, business owners. But continue to talk about that is perpetuating it, and people get more mad, and it feeds it. And so it's kind of like it's kind of it's like a trap, you know. So really, we're really good at focusing on what we don't want. But what if we could start focusing on finding out what we do want, and then just living in that?
Yeah, exactly. Because everyone will debate things, but at the end of the day, they're not really finding answers. And
It's
that's
just
what people want.
Yeah.
Exactly. They just they'll make a statement to be like, oh, you're wrong, and then they'll make a statement to say, oh, you're wrong, and it just goes on and on and on. So and it's funny how that snowballed what he was saying into exactly what we were talking about.
Oh yeah.
In the beginning of the podcast last episode with
Yeah.
the education system.
Like the third question of what I said just a second ago was like we're always figuring out like what is our future from here, and like our future is our the children, and not only that, like we always say time is money, but like in a way, like you were saying, it's time and what our attention into is like our personal currency. Like life every day, every hour, every minute, every second is our currency as human beings. And like, what do you want to do with your life?
Where do you want to place your attention?
Those three questions could be answered by yourself with the whole world that we have. And that's why, like, on the first episode, we really focused on, history and everything like that, especially towards the end, because, like, our history, we can base it upon what we're going to do, because, like, you have these great philosophers, religious experts, like, I mean, literally, we're standing on the shoulders of giants when it comes to how humanity thinks, because we have, like, thousands of years to like delve into, and then from that we are maybe able to make a future. And like the philosophy of humankind and the way of life is just so we got to focus on that a little bit more, and how we and open our minds to other people's perspectives.
Facts. And what you said earlier, the future is the children. Like in my head, I was like, dude, we're the kids, and we are now trying to grow up to be the leaders. And like the more conversations we have like this, while we dissect like those thoughts, and not just the thoughts, but like the history and the past, the decisions people made in the past, and what we think was right, what we think is wrong, how can we make situations better. That's the whole reason I'm having this podcast, because I'm trying to form my own educated opinion. I'm trying to be, the best leader I can be in the future to whoever it is, if it's 2 people or 100, what I mean? It's the same concept. So because I feel like we look around all the time nowadays, and we see all these people that are supposed to lead the people, and I'm like, these motherfuckers are full of shit. Like we just need better leaders in the communities. And so, I don't know, we just need to...
If anything, the leaders just need to open their ears and their minds.
Exactly.
Like, I mean...
But there's systems put in place where that's not the case.
Well, yeah.
Like, that's what they say, but it's not the case at all. People get backed by certain things, so independent people need to be more educated on things.
Yeah.
At the end of the day.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
But like, the downside to this more... And when I say liberal, I don't mean, like... the politics and everything like that. I'm talking about the original liberal, where you are more free thinking, you're thinking of ideas and other people's perspectives, and then doing in that, like you create an openness, which also, like with all that open thinking and that free thinking, it could also create chaos. And we also see like politicians, government, teachers, and all this thing, they have to build a platform to stand upon to create order. You have to create order out of this chaos, but in reality, like, order and chaos are two sides of the same coin.
Yeah.
And, yeah. So, I mean, what are your thoughts?
Well, there's a lot to say about order and chaos being the same coin, and people, like, understand that intellectually. Like I was saying, the Western philosophers go on and on about that. They can point out how, like up and down, there is no up without down, and then you can keep going with different polar sides of duality. Yeah, you can prove that, but it's very easy to understand. Well, it's not easy, but if you understand it mentally, but actually understanding it in the everyday world, like walking around with that recognition all the time. If you actually had that understanding like completely integrated, then someone could walk up to you and abuse you, but you wouldn't like it wouldn't affect you. Like it would just be another happening. It's all like you wouldn't see the separation between you and the individual. You wouldn't feel like this is another person attacking you. You wouldn't have a separation between your environment. And so that's such a far stretch for us, because in the Buddhism, which is something I study a lot of, it's not just this lifetime that we've the perspective is that we've had many, many lifetimes. So imagine if you've had many, many lifetimes, not just as a human, and you've seen things dualistically, i.e. self and other. You've seen that for hundreds of lifetimes. So you don't just, there's a certain momentum, that's what they would call a karma. It's a certain momentum behind seeing things a certain way. So your perspectives have a certain amount of momentum, which is however much energy you fed into it.
Yeah.
And so if you fed lifetimes,
Of good karma.
no, lifetimes of believing this is me, this is other.
Yeah.
If you, for lifetimes, how much effort is that going to take to break that? That's a concept. That's something fixed in space, and to break free of that and see, you know, and people who take drugs. You know, I'm not against drugs. Drugs are very formative for me in the beginning stages. But you know, you take a huge dose of LSD, basically anyone will start to see, the it looks like the boundaries between what I think is me and what everything else is kind of it's dissolving a bit.
Getting
right?
a little murky.
But they say, oh, it was just drugs. Because what if they accepted that it wasn't just drugs and that's actually who you are? Then, holy shit, my life is a lot. And then you can, if you're not able to work with that, the stuff that's coming up, the sort of negative emotions or
Couldn't you
resistance.
take that same mentality and think you're in a simulation? And just go batshit crazy?
I'm not as clear on simulation, so I hear a lot of people say I'm not super.
So like for
on
instance,
something.
like The Matrix. Have you seen The Matrix before?
Yeah.
So you know how it's like a simulation. It's pretty much a simulation where everyone's plugged into the Matrix and they're just brainwashed, right? And then they unplug, and that's where you got Neo and you got Morpheus, the character of the movie.
I'm not sure how much it has to do with like, because if what we're saying is true about duality, that I'm not sure how much of it is externally like done to. I wouldn't say that we're plugged in. I think that we're doing it to ourselves. That our own mind.
I'm just saying,
you know,
like if someone, because you brought up the LSD thing, so I'm thinking like if someone just took a bunch of drugs, like what's the other one? It's a psychedelic, the frog, DMT, stuff like that. To a certain degree, like I feel like the human mind only can handle so much, and it depends on your biology too. Because I see people like Joe Rogan, all these like people that take like are on YouTube now, because I feel like Joe Rogan made the DMT popular, quote unquote. But
to this audience. In this time.
Exactly, to this audience. Not our audience, but in general, like the overall.
Just people who view podcasts
mainstream.
and watch YouTube.
Yeah,
but shamans have been using DMT in the form of ayahuasca for thousands of years.
Sorry. I don't want to stop recording. All right. But yeah, what was I talking about? A simulation?
You feel like it's a simulation?
No, I don't feel like it's a simulation. I could see someone though, like, to a degree, be like, oh, this is like reality, like more like questioning the reality in general, and to a certain extent, is there like a place where you should draw the line for someone? You know what I mean? Because eventually, the whole concept of like figuring out what your reality is that what you were talking about? Like, well,
just figure out not my reality, because my reality is changing all the time, and
exactly.
But what is the reality unobstructed by me messing with it?
Okay.
What's the reality, that the common ground that we all live in? Okay. Beyond our own filters and the red glasses that we have on, which is our programming, our conditioning, the different all the ways that we viewed things throughout lifetimes, that like the certain momentum of seeing things dualistically. I mean, there's so many filters we have on.
You got political culture, how your parents raised you, how your grandparents raised your parents,
and just going into that, like trying to figure out how much am I messing with the situation? How much am I like projecting my own thing onto it? Like we are simulating this reality, and most of it is, it's not that it's not real. It's real on a certain level, but it's another key concept in Buddhism that I have to talk about is something called emptiness. Okay. Even physics is kind of like come close to this. Is that basically like the reality itself is empty of anything inherently like solid. So you even look closer and closer into the atoms. You keep going closer,
Yeah.
you see it's really all empty space.
Yeah.
And that's might be it's not actually much of a that's pretty much what it is in the physics. Like, it's empty space. And in the same way, all this seems very solid. This seems really solid, right? But even science can tell me that this is mostly empty space, right? But this seems like extremely solid to me, but so the point is, there's so much perceived solidity around us, right? The idea is in the Buddhism is that to actually accumulate wisdom, or like the point of practicing is to gain an understanding of emptiness. And if you understand emptiness, the whole thing falls apart. All the projections, all how we think reality is starts to fall away, and then we can actually look at reality the way it is. But that's a lifelong, or for some traditions, many lifetimes of work. Some think you can do it in one. There's a whole nother world out there of like what to do about that. Like, because people can recognize, like, everyone recognizes this on some level. Like, everyone has this inherent understanding inside themselves. It's not that everything is contained within you, everything is
everyone has their own world and reality, well,
everyone's
within
projecting their own thing, but the point is, your nature, everyone's nature, the essence, the view in the Buddhism and in many traditions, but that's what I know a lot of terms from Buddhism, and so that's kind of where I'm framing things, but I'm not saying anything that other traditions aren't. All streams lead to the same path. Yeah. And the point is the nature. What is the nature of things? What is the essence of who we are? And the idea is that it's beyond form or formlessness. It's beyond duality. It's beyond the up or down. It's just pure radiance.
I'm gonna pull you back to what you were saying earlier. So you're saying that without knowing true emptiness, you can't know yourself. Is that kind of like your true self?
In the Buddhism, they go beyond that. They say that even the self is a certain level of solidity. That even at some point, the self can is becoming less and less solid. And you see, where is this self really? Where am I located?
Well, when you say your soul, here? You know what I mean?
Well, and the soul is another very interesting.
But it's
not that the soul isn't there, but is it there completely? Is there something solid about it? Obviously, in the Buddhism, they even understand that you go on lifetime to lifetime, so something's carrying on. Yeah. But on the highest level of view, the view is that there's no soul, there's no self. It's just everything is pure light. That's like the highest view that you can say in words. But that doesn't negate that we're having this experience right now in these seemingly solid bodies, and we seem to reincarnate. It's not negating that. It doesn't. It's like a paradox.
Well, it's just saying it in a different way. It's not saying like you have a soul that's like your @ name on Instagram, or you know what I mean. Like your soul isn't attached directly to who you are. It's more of the world, the whole everything. Has multiple ways of transferring life. That's what I'm hearing in a way.
Well, it's the way I see it is that from this, if the view is that everything is coming from this one pure, clear light, which is still even saying words, light implies darkness.
It's just it's the overall meaning of it. You can't put it into the human terms.
You can only point at it, but some traditions are very good at pointing. But that's why we practice to get beyond the pointing in the words and go into direct experience. Okay. And so, but there's a lot of things to talk about. Concepts help, and you also told me to say things that people could research.
Yeah, for sure.
Well, I'm saying terms, but the name that I was given by my lama is Osel.
What's your lama?
Lama Rangbar. He's a.
No. I mean, what is a lama?
Oh, he's a. That's good. Lama is a Buddhist teacher. It's a certain rank inside of Buddhism, and For Tibetan Buddhism, you don't just all traditions have charlatans, and you can become a teacher real easily, but Tibetan Buddhism is very good at having certain standards of excellence. So you can't just become a lama. Someone like me is years and years from doing something like that. It's a certain title, and you have to earn it. So, my lama gave me a certain name that means Osel, which means clear light, and so I was given that name. And I'm supposed to figure out what that means. you know. And he didn't give me something very easy. He gave me, what is the nature of all of this, you know?
When you say clear light, I just think immediately of what we were just talking about with, you know, the light that, like, instead of a soul, light, you know, itself. So I have a dumb, very stupid question. Does, like, a teacher, like llama, does that have any correlation to the animal at all? No, okay. I was just so curious.
Yeah.
I was thinking of Carl from fucking, what's his face? Jimmy Neutron? I don't know.
All right.
Okay.
Well, going off of what you said, like, I found it very interesting that you were talking about, like, light, because, like, when I was, I think when I was in my philosophy class, like, in community college, like, they explained, like, just parts of Buddhism however they could, because it's such a broad...
It's extremely broad.
It's extremely broad. And, you know, like you were saying with light, like, I was instantly thinking of when he was explaining kind of a little bit of the premise that, like, say if there was a prism, and that is, like, our view or our translation. And when I say a prism, like, you know those glass prisms? Like those just pure glass things, and when you shine a light through
and
it,
rainbow comes out?
Like a rainbow comes out. And then the rainbow is just like us trying to narrow down into that
And
one light.
From that light becomes all these different lights, and then creates everything you see.
Yes.
So it's not that all the stuff you see isn't real, only the light is real.
Yeah.
All this stuff is the light. All this is like, this would be the body of the Buddha. Or this would be the clear light. You know, everything is the clear light. Even demons, or like everything. Everything is arising from that, and it's beyond good or bad.
Good or bad.
And everything is coming from that light. And so in the Buddhism, there's something called this is beyond my pay grade, but there's something called the four spontaneous visions. And the idea is that all of this is...
That sounds epic.
Yeah, all of this is... The idea is that really it's like that. That this life is like a projector. Like the clear light is going through these different lenses. There's these 4 different colored lenses. And through all that is all these dimensions are being created. And the highest practice in the Buddhism I study under, Tibetan Buddhism, in the Nyingma tradition, is Dzogchen. And it means, you know, it's the great perfection. Great perfection, Ati Yoga. You can look all this stuff up, that's why I'm saying this. But the point is, it's the highest level of teachings. There's meditations all the way from just focusing on your breath, you know, breathe in, breathe out. Yeah. Just do that for an hour. All the way up to, you just sit there, eyes open, and you're looking directly at the nature of mind. And like, what the fuck does nature of mind mean? Well, then you wouldn't get those teachings. I don't have those teachings. This, like I said, is above my pay grade. Yeah. But what you said about the clear light going into the rainbow light, that's really how the view is in the traditions I study under.
Yeah, that's just and like you said, that's almost like a basic introduction. And like for you to like explore into all of those different colors to narrow down the perspective, put yourself out of that to really see the real reality, like the clear situation that our concepts of good and evil is just a different color. Like, you know, and because like, you know, you could have multiple different projections, and we see it in history, like everyone has their own kind of goals and realities and like wants, and it's like narrowed down. And I feel like over all these years we've kind of put the blinders on, and like only seeing that light or just a few lights, when in reality it's like
no, if you look at the situation, this is why like you talked about earlier that there's like a limit for like the mind to do a certain amount of substances like DMT or something.
Yeah, I feel like it depends on your biology for sure. But I feel like some people are more capable to do different stuff. And, you know, like for some people when they take it and they just go schizo.
Or there's a mindset.
Yeah. But there's stories. What I'm saying, someone named Ram Dass had he's like a very popular guy who like popularized in the 60s the hippies, and he was like the one who he was actually practicing, and he talked a lot about like the Indian philosophies and stuff. But his teacher Maharaji, Ram Dass. So just quick history: Ram Dass was a Harvard professor. Him and Timothy O'Leary. Timothy O'Leary was
These
the
names
guy.
sound so familiar.
Yeah, Timothy O'Leary was the guy who said, "Tune in, no, drop out, tune in," or there's like some phrase but the point is they were studying LSD when it first coming in. It wasn't illegal yet. They started the chemical got created. They started studying it.
Is this before Manson and the FBI came in and
I'm not sure.
You know about that story though?
But we don't got to go there. yeah. Because that's the stigma. That stuff's being perpetuated, and
by the
people
government.
people like that cults. Therefore, you got to be careful. You can't go find a guru or a teacher because he's going to be like Marilyn Manson. And then people are afraid of having good guidance because they think people are out to get them. Which I cannot go down that. I can go down that, but it's not worth it. The point was that.
Yeah.
But I can go down in a second. But Ram Dass, they started studying LSD and they started doing shit ton. They weren't exactly like scientists observing it. They were doing it. And
they're learning in the field.
But
they're getting that groundwork.
But eventually, he took enough of it, Ram Dass, and he felt burnt out. He realized, I can't stay in this state. He got to the point where everything was one and all that, all the airy-fairy, but he couldn't stay there. So he said, what the hell? He was a seeker.
Yeah.
So he went all the way to India, and he heard all these stories about these people who walk around in that state. People who are enlightened or whatever. Yeah. And so he searched all around. He found a bunch of people who are, probably just practitioners. They have some degree of realization, but they're not you don't sit there that's God sitting there, know. But he found his guru, Maharaji, and he was like that. And he did an experiment one time. I'm tying this relates to what you said. He did an experiment. He brought a bunch of LSD pills and gave it to Maharaji and was like, here, take some of these, or I think Maharaji asked him, do you have that yogi medicine in your pocket? He was like, yogi? You mean the LSD? And there's translators, of course. Guy was Indian, and then he was like, let me have some. And he took a shit ton that would blow you out of the world. And Ram Dass was just sitting there for hours. Nothing changed with the guy. And he did this thing twice. He did it another time because he had this subtle thought in his mind. Ram Dass, he said, maybe they weren't they were bad tablets, or they're obviously laboratory grade. This guy's a Harvard professor. He's not just some hippie, But
if he's a Harvard professor, he's getting the right stuff.
No, he did, but he had a small doubt, and so his guru was kind of omniscient. He could kind of read. The story is, I don't know him, but the story is that and with thousands of people, he has stories like this that he could read minds. So one time he was sitting with Ram Dass a few years later, and he was like, you have any more of that medicine? He basically called him out and said, you think I was lying? You think, that I took those and I was just tricking you? He's like, and so he saw that, and he did it again a second, and he took I think 4 tablets or something. Nothing happened. So there's just something to realize that even the most powerful thing that most people watching this probably know who've done LSD, even for me, there's one experience that I've had that was the highest I've ever been, right? Even with all the practices and meditation I do, I get to certain levels, but nothing was as high as this. But there's people who can take that stuff and nothing changes.
And why do you think that is?
Because they've actually integrated themselves
Their
on that level.
Is so
they've done whatever level of work they had to do to get free or to detach.
How do you get there though? You get to first discover true emptiness, right?
Well, that's the beauty of it. It's a craft almost. There's so many different traditions that start from different places. Some focus heavily on the body first,
makes sense.
In the kung fu, you would just be until these guys just not even in his body, and so the master starts slapping him up. He's like, here, block. Punch him in the face. He's not even present enough in his body to block. He's just gonna get punched in the face. And until he starts to have a certain level of mastery or attention, he is able to place a certain amount of attention in his body. He's walking around in his body. He can't even talk about higher levels of meditation or feeling the energy or all this stuff if you're not even in your body. Yeah. So different traditions start at in different aspects. Some develop the mind first. Some develop the emotions. It's more about just singing and devotion. Okay. And that's kind of the Christian traditions kind of like I feel like that's kind of more what it was like. It was very devotional focused. It was very singing focused. It was more like so the point is it's not just one way.
Yeah, they all have different ways of approaching the same goal.
They all get to the same goal, but different beings have different capacities, and so different beings have different centers turned on. Like we have a woman here right now, like most women are much more in touch with their emotional side. Everyone knows like that. Like, and it's not like a generalization. Like there's some men that are very emotionally in tuned and vice versa. But the point is, in general, like women kind of have certain centers turned on. And so they would probably get different teachings to start out than a guy would. Yeah. Like for me, like when I first came to the place that I study, and we can talk about that, you know, I wasn't getting any high level. I'm still not really. It was more like, you know, here, dig this hole. You know, we're doing some yard work. You know, like you chop wood, carry water. You know,
wax on, wax off.
Yeah. And that's an important part. You know.
Okay, well, I have to ask you, like, since you know, you're kind of delving into this specifically, like, what, like, tradition, I know you might have a little bit more focus on a bunch of different ones to try to figure out what's going on, but, like, what have you been focusing on tradition-wise, like, to try and open yourself up? Because you got to start somewhere. You know, so, like, where are you trying to start?
Yeah, where did you personally start?
Like, where are you trying
to... Well, where I started, like, you know, if we're talking... From birth, I was like, since I can remember,
we understand. Actually, no. Let me. You go ahead. I don't want to cut you off. Okay. Just breeze through the Christianity part. You know what I mean? And then where you branch off from there.
Okay. Well, we'll basically be beyond growing up having conversations with my dad about philosophy, and then realizing church was not for me. Yeah. And eventually I started looking at Eastern philosophy. Like, well, I like Western philosophy. Well, what is the Eastern philosophy? What are their philosophies? Yeah. You know, what is Buddhism? You know, and so I started listening to guys like Alan Watts. I highly recommend Alan Watts. He holds like a special place in my heart. I mean, he died in the '60s, but I mean, brilliant. You know, like really brilliant guy.
Really?
He's you know, like he's like a real person for me. Like in my heart. You know. Yeah. And so. But my first human teacher, after listening to some of these people like Alan Watts and Ram Dass, my first actual meeting with the teacher in life was a guy named Silver, and he's still alive. And he was just 15 minutes from where I was living with my parents in Corinth. You know, he's just 15 minutes. I was driving around DoorDash one day and drove by this place. You know, and eventually I went in, and you know, he's my root. They'd call it a root guru or a root teacher, you know. So
Silver, did he specialize in one thing, or did he like emphasize one philosophy predominantly?
Well, he has a like a kind of core tradition that like his guru, like his teacher kind of emphasized, but even his teacher was not really like traditional. He was more like, you know, like just non-traditional.
Dipped his toe in a lot of different places.
Well, he actually didn't dip as much in other places. He just kind of was like, he was kind of creating his own tradition. He was like a trailblazer. My teacher's teacher, his name was Swami Rujananda. You can look him up. He was like the first Swami, which is a certain title in like an Indian, like their monastic system. Okay. But he was a Swami, but he wasn't like necessarily, not all monks. Like there's also non-celibate. Like there's certain, that's not the point, but he was kind of in like, he was trailblazing his own path, but he was obviously influenced by the Indian philosophies of Shaivism. You can look that up. And then my teacher really kind of branched out, and he's very into Native American type ceremonies, very into Buddhism, into Shaivism, and so the list that he's learned from is many, and so he's kind of brings all these different streams and tries to find the essential points of each of them and try to like create his own thing that like try to craft it towards like the people that are in front of him. You know, like the people in front of him, what do they need? And so he goes and grabs all these different tools and then tries to like put it into something that's applicable for the people that he's around. So he's kind of got his own tradition, but it's obviously influenced by all these other traditions.
And I have to ask, so you said this is coming more from Eastern.
Yeah, most of all this is pretty Eastern.
It's very interesting that you say that because, like, you know, like with the philosophy and everything like that, you could also see, like, even some of the Western psychologists like Freud and the Neo-Freudians, which the biggest difference if I read correctly, is that like Freud focused a lot on like childhood experiences, a little bit focused on like sex specifically as like it's like a major thing, but like the Neo-Freudians kind of, I wouldn't say denied that. They wouldn't look past those, you know, things, but they also they mostly focused on like the outer world and like how decisions kind of affect everything around us. It's not just sex. It's not just your childhood experiences. It's literally the world around you. So it's interesting to see where like that Eastern philosophy and then even the Western philosophy kind of meet up.
Well, that's one of
some of these on these top level.
Well, that's
people thinking of what humans are.
Yeah, well, that's one of the things that my teacher Silver is big on. How did the East and the West come to meet? The East is all about the spirit over here, and like not as much about like the psychology, even though they're very much in the deeper levels. But on a surface level, they're very much about the spirit. You know, like that, like everything is connected. We're all like really one. But then the Western is very focused on psychology, and so how do these start to meet and have a spiritual psychology? How to make it applicable to the Western mind, but also you're like we can't be so tunnel visioned on psychology and trauma and and then what's practical and where's the solution for all this? What you're just gonna point out? You're just gonna point out your trauma? What's the practice? They're not. That's one thing about the Western. They don't have as much like practices. It's just go see a talk therapist and they'll fix it for you.
Thousands of years in Eastern philosophy. I mean, we said this on the last episode that the Eastern culture, especially when it comes to like figuring out those three questions that we were talking about earlier, of they have really let's say kept it together in terms of history. So like I would almost say that like Eastern philosophy and ways of life and thinking is almost ahead of Western.
I don't want to get into comparisons, but yes.
But the thing is, you see the comparisons, but you have to see the comparisons to see the togetherness.
Yeah.
Because and it's funny that you said that like with the soul and everything like that, because one of my favorite psychologists in Western psychology, and I could almost say psychology and philosophy are almost like two sides of the same coin, like we were saying earlier. Like we always see these things, but like Carl Jung, his one of and I don't know if you've heard some of his things, and I would definitely recommend people looking into him, just like some of the people that you said, is that he almost kind of thought of this idea of, and this goes off of quite a few experiments. I don't know if anybody's heard of the Russian experiment. Has anybody heard of the Russian experiment?
Sounds familiar.
I don't know if it's real or anything, but the Russians tried to see how long people could stay awake.
Well, that sounds realistic.
And really just like stay awake the entire time, because we humans kind of still don't understand like why we need sleep. Like we obviously understand it's like a recharge of our brain, and maybe not even our brain, but like just our souls and anything. Like why do we do it? Yeah. And so Russians were trying to figure that out. Well, the thing is, it got to a point where those people went so crazy and they started talking at the same time. At the same, they went so crazy, they were like, we are one, like we're like almost like legion, and things like that. But like in reality, like you were saying earlier, like we're always trying to focus on that clear light, that prism, that light that focuses in the prism. Like, what if we are all like deep down in our inner subconscious, our inner primal feelings, and maybe even beyond that, like not in the physical world, like our souls and everything like that are all very much interconnected. We are all of the same species. We've grown up. We understand and to everything like that, where it is one.
Yeah, to the point where if you don't go to sleep,
God
you all talk at the same time.
Everyone's inner subconscious, like and it blows my mind that he was theorizing that, because I feel like Carl Jung was definitely and he was a Neo-Freudian. Because like I was saying earlier, Neo-Freudians Freudians focused on like everything around you and who you are and everything like that. They focused more on childhood memories because they were psychologists.
Okay.
But once you get to Neo-Freudian, you become a lot more like everything around us is interconnected, and it's all a ripple effect and a domino effect where like everyone's actions affect us, not just good and bad, because in the future it could turn, it could turn out for the best of us or the worst, but like it just it's crazy to think that your perspective on Eastern philosophy just reminds me like of the interconnections of, we're all coming to almost the same conclusion of like there is some kind of thing beyond us. We don't know what it could be. God, it could be like us. It's just like so interesting, and I definitely recommend like looking up Carl Jung, because some of the stuff that you were saying is like, because like you were saying you don't really know about Western, but like man, this is crazy. Especially some of those Neo-Freudians were thinking on the Western side, because I still myself am learning a lot more, trying to learn more about the Eastern, because like I love it. Chinese, Korean, Japanese, Indian, like those mindsets and ideas have been lasting for thousands of years, not near as much as Western. We've lost a lot of culture, a lot of ideas and things like that that we went on in the first episode. In the second episode, like what we're talking about now, it just opens up, the three questions. What are we? What are we doing here? Why are we here? How are we here? And putting it into that prism of light and trying to figure out what is the clear light? What is our meaning? So I just had to say that, because like it just reminded me so much of that, and it's crazy how the different color lights and everything like that lead to one in terms of the beginning of what we are.
That is wild. So you said earlier you like conspiracies.
Oh,
let's go down a rabbit hole, because I love conspiracies and just thinking about what if, what is, what isn't. You know what I mean? So is there any like specific conspiracies like when you got more into the Eastern philosophy you started thinking about more often? Anything that comes to mind?
Well, I mean, I was like big researching on like different conspiracies before I got into any type of practice. But like recently, like after having practice and starting to understand a bit more, like about kind of like how does energy work, how does like, how does people practicing together with a common intention work, and then like different like types of ceremonies I've been in, like if I kind of started to think, well, these type of practices or these type of like principles, alchemical principles, can be used for the good or for self-discovery, or to to abuse power, to use power over people, to keep people enslaved. It's wherever you place your attention. And so that's why a lot of these traditions, especially Tibetan Buddhism, the practices they were kept secret they were like in this little mountain like above the Himalayas, and like for like Tibet, which is now occupied by China, but for thousands of years, and it's passed from master to disciple. And a lot of the practices that were more powerful very powerful were kept secretive because they could be abused. And so with the conspiracy, I start thinking, well, how many people are using this stuff in the dark, and have they also banded together like a lot of traditions have banded together, like there's I mean, not just churches, but in monasteries, tribes, these all like it's like multiple people coming together is creating like a multiplied exponentially effect. And so that can also be the other end on the bad or whatever. And so if you really want to go to the rabbit hole, you could say that there's dark sorcerers out there who do these type of ceremonies, human sacrifices, all these different types of sacrifices, because they're making some sort of an exchange, and then they're asking for results in the world. And you could say, I mean, if you look at even Balenciaga, this whole thing about Balenciaga,
that shit is wild.
They're big on devil worship and rituals and pedophilia.
The pedophile shit is wild.
Well, think about
it's absurd. How did you're talking about like the picture?
Yeah,
and bro, where they had like the little kids wearing that shit, and then they also had like the document of the the pedophile shit from the Supreme Court document just lying in the
But
background.
then even
that's not a coincidence,
even
dude.
certain designers actually have like the photos on their Instagram about like openly like practicing satanic rituals and all these different things, and that's magic. I mean, magic is like, it's not like they kind of try to say it's like Disney, like, oh, you know, like magic is like real. It's just like it's misperceived. Yeah. Magic is just like, can you place your attention and create something and then send it out into the world? That's magic.
If you're considering magic to be brainwashing, there's brainwashing
social
media.
That's dark magic.
Yeah, well, for sure. Yeah,
they call that black magic, and many traditions they're big on like these. Like they actively have things to protect from black magic. You wear certain amulets, you know, like. And
so wait, do I need an amulet when I scroll on TikTok?
I think
because that's a black magic.
Well, no, it's actually a certain type of dumbing down of the population so they can exert control.
You know the difference between American TikTok and China's TikTok is completely absurd.
Yeah, I've heard about the algorithm's different.
Oh, it's way different. You have people like the up liking like, you know, like a science project or something like a good study or something, and over here it's like some kid like jumping off a building or something for a prank or some shit. Some stupid ass shit.
Well,
you know, slapping someone with the
look at the
cake.
media. The media, it's divide and conquer, red and blue, and it's always them fighting each other. But all the media companies are owned by the same people. And all those groups are all owned by private investors that we don't know. It's like the Federal Reserve is privately owned by some investors, so our currency is being printed in, and we owe debt to this private bank. And then all these private banks around the world are all privately owned. And so and they own the debt. The money has no value anymore because it's not linked to gold. It's fiat. So it's about debt. Who owns the debt? And so these bankers own the debt.
Yeah.
So the bankers run the world.
Yeah.
But even deeper than that, we don't even know who these bankers are, and we don't know what's above. It's not even money for them. Like they just like they have the illusion of control.
So who do you think the bankers are? Have you done any
I have no
on
intent to be an activist or change the world on an external level.
Okay.
I'm only focused on internally becoming free and sharing that with others.
Oh shit! We're going 0 dark 30
I gotta
over here.
say, like, I feel like it was a very interesting conspiracy that you're saying, and I honestly don't even believe it's a conspiracy nowadays, because you're seeing a lot of these groups, like, of investors and people and everything like that, like, from, like, say if some of those powerful traditions fell in the wrong hands, like,
Or more
their
like
minds,
the practices fall in the wrong hands.
Their minds are in how they live and how they are able to, say, use that magic on other people and exert that control and power and everything like that. Because we've always seen that magic is, well, magic. It's powerful. It's beyond our comprehension to a certain point.
Beyond a certain area of our mind's comprehension.
Okay.
A certain level of, like, it kind of defies certain. It seems to defy logic. And it seems to defy rational mind. But it's actually in line with all those things. Nothing is contradictory, but it seems to not be logical or hold up to the rational mind.
Yeah, it's kind of like how we were relating order and chaos. Like, you know, those, you know,
they seem different, but they literally create each other.
But
you can't have one without the other.
But understanding, you know, like, if they are two sides of the same coin and there's a little bit in between, that in between and understanding it as a whole is a massive chasm. And so I just found it, like, funny, like, not even funny, like, very unique and kind of, like, crazy to put in my mind that, like, how these powerful people that we see are exerting their control and even their traditions in different ways to control people that don't understand what's going on.
But even trying to fight it externally is like playing into the exact game.
Yes.
So that's why there's not even much need to talk about this stuff, because unless it brings up your stuff and then you start to you feel anger or rage or hatred towards these people, then it was useful, because then you can see those things and work with that energy and transform it.
Yeah.
But other than that, if it just becomes perpetuating duality, all these dark forces, the elites, they run the world, and it's about slavery, they want to enslave us. If it's continued to be that, then it's just, they're just bouncing off. You're just inside the game. But the game is not to make the world perfect externally. Like, you start from the inside out. And like, if you have hate even for people that are abusing you, you miss the point. You're on some level, you're just as stuck as they are. I mean, at least you're not perpetuating harm. Like, they have a certain amount of, like, it seems like we're the ones who have the short end of the stick, but people who perpetuate harm as a means, like, that's what they think is good, like, that's going to come back to bite them. Not like someone's going to punish them. They're being punished by their own mindset. Like, a murderer is being punished by the fact that they think that, like, oh, like, it's good, like, it would be a good solution to murder this person right now. Like, it's not that someone's going to punish them for murdering, just the fact that they have a mind like that, they're suffering.
Yes.
Like, you know, like, would you rather have a mind like that? Like, you could be a murderer, you might have all the money in the world, you're one of these elites, right? And you exert control over the populace, and you're like, oh, look at all these sheep, you know? You even might have a certain degree of knowledge because you weren't brainwashed through the education system. You might know some magic and some practices, but where's the compassion? You see all these other people as separate, and fundamentally you're separate from the world around you. But you could be a simple beggar walking around, like, you know, like walking around, but you have a lot of compassion, and you feel we're all connected. Which life would you, I mean, I know which life I would rather have. Yeah. I'd rather be the beggar. I don't care if I'm even being persecuted.
What's life without compassion?
Yeah, well,
exactly.
Well, the kind of the view is that compassion is all that there is. That this clear light, the nature of it is compassion, and it's unbiased compassion, not compassion for one thing in particular.
Reed, this is his main theory that came out of that. Carl Jung.
Carl Jung's theory is collective unconscious. He believes that human beings are connected to each other and their ancestors through a shared set of experiences. We use this collective consciousness to give meaning to the world. You know, that's a certain degree of what's happening, and it's very important to do a certain amount of work. Like, what type of memories do I have? Like, if you have a lot of traumas from this life, it's important to come to terms with that and have certain practices to like transform that energy, because it's eating away at you. If you don't find a way to eat it and then invest it, then it's going to eat you. This world is eat or be eaten. This world is it's consumption. Everything is TikToks. What are they trying to consume? Your attention. They found a way to monetize your attention through data collection and eyes on you, and they get paid. So attention is really all you have. So maybe we should learn how to discipline our attention. Yes. Can you just sit there for an hour and place your attention at some place in your body and just try and keep doing that? And I guarantee this is what's going to happen. You place it there. Oh man, I'm a little hungry right now. I gotta go eat. I'm supposed to be placing my attention on my navel and just breathe in, breathe out, and then you do it again. 5 seconds later, you know. Oh man, yeah. Maybe I've kind of been sitting here for a long. My back kind of hurts. Like we're not taught any control over our attention, but that's all we are. Yeah. Our attention, which is vast. It's not like we are only that. We are attention, but we don't know how to train it. Our attention's going everywhere, and where's this attention being going? It's being swept over here, swept over there, you know. And they the external world has found ways to get that attention for monetary gain.
Yeah, your attention span is definitely key, and it's like you were saying earlier, kind of. Like the currency you really have, money really isn't like the greatest currency. It's your attention.
Money is just another form of energy,
and where you can just direct your attention to, and if you can isolate it and dictate it, which is key. And I remember I talked to you like a while ago, and you were telling me just about like I was asking you like what practices you did, and you were talking about the breathing stuff, and you got into more stuff. So I started doing like just breathing exercises. I saw it on Joe Rogan too. So. Eventually, one day I was like, fuck it, I'm in the sauna, I'm going to be in here probably an hour, and I just did that, and, dude, just breathing, like, constantly, just trying to, like, go as long as possible on the inhale, hold it, and, like, let it out as slowly as possible. That shit is a workout by itself. And then, after that, like, just focusing on something, or, like, closing your eyes, but I think, like, focusing on something and looking at it and just, like, trying to focus on that one thing is harder than just closing your eyes.
There's so many ways to practice. Yes. I mean, that's one thing. You're right. A lot of traditions, you start off closing the eyes and just focus on breathing in, breathing out. That's like a basic. But in the higher levels of meditation, your eyes are open. Because what? You're walking around with your eyes open.
Yeah.
You want to meditate constantly. If you always want to have control over your attention and you never practice meditating with your eyes open, how are you going to, how are you going to walk around in the world? You're only ever going to practice when you practice in the morning. And then the rest of your life, you're just like everybody else, just getting eaten alive. But you have to start somewhere. And it's not about doing something that like you're not able to do, but I'm going to prove, like you got to be kind to yourself too, like these different, there's the reason there's different levels of practice. It's not because like the people who do these practices are better than these practices. It like everyone has the same nature. We've always been over that. Yeah. But how much have you discovered that? How much have you like how much are you stabilized in that? Like that's a different story. And so there are, it's not about someone's better or worse. It's just about some people, or it's hard to say this without still seeming like I'm making a comparison, but it's just an assessment. Some people who practice for hours a day, they walk around, they're not just like being like taken by everything they see, like they have a certain amount of training, of discipline. You can say that with a fighter. It's not that this fighter is inherently a better person than someone who doesn't know how to fight. But you go up and you try to fight them, this guy's going to be a lot more prepared to fight you.
Yeah.
It's not that you couldn't, like on a physical level, like you probably don't have the same, you'll have a certain amount of cap, like their genetics, like you probably there's a limit.
Just like in general, just knowing your body as a fighter, like jiu-jitsu for instance, you know your body, and like you can be so out of shape, but if you've done jiu-jitsu for so long, you just know like different locks and everything. And just compared to like some super athlete, if y'all just do jiu-jitsu, even the super athlete's gonna lose to the guy that's terribly out of shape but knows what he's doing because he's more equipped.
Well, exactly, and not only that, like I was saying earlier, different people have different capacities, or they kind of start with certain centers turned on, some more than others, and kind of the view in Buddhism is that like you've had maybe many previous lifetimes you've been practicing, and so you come in, you're not like just like completely like just
or just personal experience like in your own life going up to that point where you actually try to start doing it might have affected you, because like you were saying earlier, a lot of you teachers dip their toes, or not even dip their toes, but try to be a trailblazer, but like picked and choose what they liked. Even the church has some good things to it.
No, they do.
And just like some Eastern culture has good things to it. So, it all comes together. Like you can be completely new to Buddhism, but still have like some attributes. Like when I'm thinking attributes, I'm thinking like 2K. This guy's got a good like a 75 overall.
Well, a lot of these
stuff like that.
Yeah, a lot of these these are all different maps, these different traditions. But the essential, like I'm trying to stick to the essential. Like what are actual capacities that need to be developed? Attention is just an English word, but it's not. No tradition has a monopoly over your attention. Yeah. They all talk about it in different ways, and they say different practices to do with it, like different ways to focus your attention or to relax and expand. But the point is, you have attention. It's like an innate like thing, and then we have a certain degree of imagination. Like imagination is not like owned by any tradition, and so that's a certain capacity. In the Tibetan Buddhism, like there's practices where you visualize certain things. You're supposed to be visualizing different figures and different colors, and then like different channels in the body, and then while you're breathing, like they all overlay on top of each other, and you build a practice. But so there's certain essential things like that: attention, visualization, breath, the body. Like there's different physical practices that no tradition owns those things, but it's good to try to find a tradition and practice it. Like don't just like. It's not so much to just like go here and go there. The only reason I did that because I had a teacher, so my teacher's guiding me. Yeah. But if I think I could do this on my own, I mean you can up to a point, and it's
you
not
have so much time.
Yeah, but and like it's like you could get to your destination without a map, but like you've never traveled the terrain and you don't know what obstacles are on the way. Maybe you should like get over yourself and read the map. GPS means Guru Positioning System. So it's not that this teacher is better than you, but they've walked the path. Maybe not completely. You don't have to like find the perfect teacher. If he's not completely enlightened, I'm not going to listen to him. But he's walked farther than you, idiot. So maybe just try to follow some instructions. And so that's the only reason I did multiple traditions, is because my teacher did that already, so I can follow some of his guidance.
He's following his footsteps.
Yeah, and you know, I always have to make my own mistakes, and mistakes aren't bad. Mistakes means you're about to learn. You're about to learn something.
Yeah.
You can learn something out of a perceived mistake. And if all mistakes contain learnings, that means mistakes aren't mistakes.
Yeah.
They're just learning experiences. So we have all these negative connotations around the life process, but it's all part of it. And if we can start focusing on the wanted, then, you know, I think our life would be much more meaningful.
Yo, that's like almost exactly what we were trying to pinpoint in the first episode in terms of history. Like, it's not about the good and bad. It's like an action was made and there was a consequence to whatever that action. And like what we're talking about is, how did the action come to be? Like, why?
What are people's motivations?
What are people's motivations? What is their attention on?
Yeah, what are they investing their attention on?
Yeah, what are they investing their time, like their attention, like what are they focusing on? And everyone has their own attention on, like, on so many different things. Sometimes blinders come on. But, like, we also need to, like, take a step back, and I feel like, you know, meditation and the breathing and even all these other different traditions, like, almost lets you take yourself out of it, so you can be like, man, what am I? What am I really focusing my time and effort and attention on?
Yeah, you start. It's actually it's something. Here's another practice. It's simple. Self-observation. So, self-observation, there's a whole book on it by Red Hawk you guys could read. It's very good. But the idea is you are taking yourself out of the equation in one sense. You start to try and observe your actions objectively, which means you're observing yourself. You're not making it right or wrong. You're not trying to put a judgment on whatever you're observing. You're not trying to change whatever you're observing, because change implies that something was not perfect and you have to change it. So that people are like, what? I thought we're supposed to change ourselves and get better. I don't like those words. I think we should. We at first we have to be present. We have to, like, sit down. Have some degree of control over our attention. So we have certain practices. But then you have to start to observe once you actually are here, present. Well, what's happening right now? And then you're just like, oh, like, my mind's going crazy right now. I shouldn't be this neurotic. Then you're judging yourself. But then you're judging yourself. But that's fine. Notice you're judging yourself. Then get back into the practice. Focus your attention. And so this is how we start to, like, become aware of our own mind and what's happening in there without judging it or making it wrong, and like not being kind to ourselves. Like, we mess with ourselves so much out in the world. We have these certain expectations of ourselves, right? And we think, oh, that's good. We're actually like, we want to become the best version of ourselves. But you have these expectations. Where are you currently? And where would you like to go? And then see the obstacles in the way that you need to learn from.
Dude, self-evaluation is so key. Because I did that like a couple weeks ago. Just overall, I was like, okay, I did it with like me, like where I'm at with my family, where I'm at with my friends, where am I at in my career, what am I with my hobbies, like what means the most to me. Like, what do I spend my most money on, just like finances and stuff like that. I try to boil it down all the way to like just a real molecular level on just my overall like culture, my self-culture. Like, what do I want to be around? What have I been around? Type stuff. Like, self-evaluation is very key, and
it's the most key.
I've never really done it much until this year, which is really weird to me because, dude, I was smiling earlier because I was like, oh, damn. And because it popped in my head when we went backpacking all the time and with my dad, he would take us on this, like, we would do a solo, the 36-hour solo. And that is literally made to meditate on yourself. Yeah. That's literally what it is.
And we played Pokemon.
We
met up and we had we did rap battles. We played Pokemon.
We didn't give a fuck. but like, really, like, that is so, like, so. Because I was thinking in my head, I was like, why don't, like, people try to teach like kids? I get it. They don't want to, like, just like sit still and like try to focus. But like, some do at a young age because it's so emphasized in their culture probably. And like over here in the West, we really don't want, like...
Well, it doesn't really help the system of capitalism and consumerism. Not that capitalism is
Why
bad.
do you say that?
I'm just saying, but...
No. Yeah.
Consumerism is based off, they want people to buy things.
Oh,
and so if you're
span.
if you're constantly unhappy with your own mind, you keep trying, and your attention's not controlled.
Yeah.
They have an advertisement. Boom, they got your attention. This is going to fix your life. Not you looking at your own mind, not you coming to terms with who you are in your life and your obstacles and trying to get above them. No, this product will give you some temporary relief and satisfaction. You don't have to think about that stuff. Just suppress all that stuff and here, buy this. And then this is going to help you. And then once you get bored of that, there's always new products,
But you would think in a church, though, like, because, like, at the end of the day, I get it. We all, like, veered off on our own path. Me and Clayton still, are probably just qualified as Church of Christ. But you still think they would try to emphasize some of these ideals and teachings.
Well, I think Jesus was a guru.
In the Bible, he literally does a lot of this shit. But, like,
he had students. He had 12 disciples. He was a guru.
Yeah.
He
went to the wilderness and fucking fasted.
Yeah, for 40 days.
Yeah.
Well, what type of guy goes to the wilderness for 40 days and looks at his own mind and confronts Satan or his own inner demons?
It's just so crazy to me how, like, the church has gotten so, like, just from my experience in general, was just so shallow.
Well, think about it. If you want to control a population, you should probably destroy their religion and their practice and the knowledge. Destroy the ability to teach the lower class of people, like, all these principles about your attention and your mind and faith. You should probably destroy those things. Just when countries try and take over other countries, what do they do first?
Oh, they take out.
They
their
kill
God.
the priests.
Yeah.
They kill the people who have knowledge.
Yeah.
They kill the shamans. When the conquistadors came to Mexico, they killed the shamans.
I mean,
the
that might
holders
have
of
been
the
one of the
knowledge.
downfalls for the Romans because they try to allow that shit in the Republic.
Well, they also the Romans are interesting.
Very interesting.
I don't know much about. I know a lot about Rome, and for what exactly I was talking about, I don't know how to tie it.
I
But
have a question.
Okay.
Do y'all? Because I can't think of this. So, Christianity evolved after obviously, like Jesus' execution, and then you had
Peter was
Muslims, like not Muslims, but what's the religion called?
Judaism?
No.
Islam, Christianity?
No. What's Muslims? Muslims are the people, but like
Islam.
Sorry, I couldn't fucking think of it for some reason.
No, yeah.
That evolved after Christianity. I'm pretty sure. I think it was a little bit after.
No, I think it's more. Abraham had the story. Abraham had the sons, and then
well, they all tie together with the same stories back in the
Yeah.
day, but the way they like evolved as a church or as a people, I'm pretty sure Jewish was first, obviously, and then you had Christianity, and then a little bit afterwards, I'm pretty sure Islam popped up too. But I could be wrong about that. But I was just thinking, when did like the Church of Christ, like, because you have the Catholic Church, right? Then how does the Church of Christ like rise up?
Okay, so this I'll touch on this a little bit.
It's so different.
Thing is with Christianity, especially Catholicism, like at any religion or any other mind of thinking, you have people that'll start thinking outside the box.
Yeah.
Like really looking at the outside and the in out. Like they are thinking about all these different perspectives. You had a famous person, everyone's heard of him. As soon as I say his name, y'all know. Martin Luther. Like, yeah. What he did was crazy. He posted like 100 like demerits that he would say is very, very like wrong about the church and how they're teaching people. Like, and this was definitely during a time when they were like offering.
This is the Catholic Church.
This is the Catholic Church.
Yeah.
At near the height of its power.
Okay.
And like during this time period, they were offering like, hey, you give a certain amount of money, then your soul is like cleansed and everything like that. You go to heaven, and like
this is the same time period.
It became very corrupt.
Is this where they couldn't read the Bible and they had to go to like the?
Oh yeah, they had to go to certain.
You need an intermediary to connect with God.
Exactly.
You're disconnected from God.
Yeah.
And like he was saying, just a second ago, like, what better way to control the populace than control like
their connection to
their
themselves
connection
and the
to
higher
themselves and their higher power.
Yeah.
And
Brainwashed.
that almost kind of brings me back to what I was thinking, earlier about when y'all was talking about inner subconscious and everything like that. What about those people that have a fear, and I've had this fear before of like, man, what is, like, if I do start thinking and evaluating my life, but then go even deeper, like, I'm almost afraid of myself. Like, what kind of advice would you give to that kind of... Yeah, the truth is scary, but, like, when you're really looking at yourself and your actions and, like, what you're really putting your attention on, like, like, you can say, like, focus your attention on this and this. Like, what kind of advice, like, specifically would you give to people that, like, have that fear, that almost anxiety and stress that, like, man, if I really start focusing on myself and thinking about these things, like, you have this anxiety of, like, like, what can I do next?
I'm gonna give a stab at it real quick. You're probably gonna have a way better answer though afterwards. Okay, but I would say that you have to look at it as, like, for me, I just look at everyone having a different perspective on life in general, how they were raised and everything, and also on the situation at hand, because really everything that affects me are just people that I come in contact with, situations that pop up in the world that affect me also, that I might not have personal contact to, but it affects us in a world overview. But I just think it, like, you have to look at their perspective and then break it down to the fact that you're not perfect at the end of the day. You make right and wrong decisions in the blink of an eye every single day. You don't even know it, and it's not like you're not condemned for that. A mistake is a lesson, and you get to become greater. So, like you were saying earlier, when you have those weird thoughts in your head and you're like, why am I thinking this? You dissect that more. I do that all the time.
Yeah.
Because I have
like,
dark...
why am I thinking this?
Because I have dark thoughts that... And it's usually the dark thoughts that pop into your head randomly, and you're like, what the fuck? Why am I thinking this shit? And I dissect that, and then I just keep going deeper and deeper and just try to break it down to a very principled thing and just go as deep as possible with that, like, that just thinking overall. But that's how I kind of try to dig deeper on myself and, I guess, self-evaluate how I was talking earlier. It's in the beginning, because I had to do this in high school, because I had a weird phase in high school where I had, like, 3 different friend groups, and, like, I felt fake as fuck because I was, like, acting one way in front of the church kids. Then I would act, I think it was a junior year, and I was acting in one way in front of the high school kids. And then, like, I had a mixed group that, like, high school and church kids would mix, and we were all, like, it was just weird. And so, like, I kind of developed that thinking, I think, that year. And then senior year since then it progressed, and I just had my life journey and helped me a lot deal with, like, it helps with anxiety for sure, because there's, like, a lot of things that happen in our life with, like, parents or just family, things that, like, tie very deep rooted into us, and that just come with a lot of anxiety, or just loved ones in general and stuff like that.
I would, that's what I was thinking earlier, like, when you go in even deeper in yourself, like, even farther, like, what is the root cause of, like, why I'm reacting the way I am? Like, what do I do? And so, and I think all of us have had those thoughts. It's like, and people are just like, let go, like, and you were saying earlier, like, if a mistake is a lesson, is a mistake really a mistake? Like, is it really? And so, but, like, that powerlessness, how do you come to terms with it?
Well, that's my life. That's what I have to face every day,
Yeah.
And without the support of my teacher, without the support of the community of practitioners who all, like, kind of have the same goal and are under the guidance of that teacher, and without the teachings themselves, those are called the 3 jewels in Buddhism. The Buddha, which you could say is the teacher, or just the clear light. Your certain amount of, like, devotion. You have a certain feeling that the universe is basically, benevolent. It's perfect, and, like, your truest inner nature is perfect. Have that, some sort of feeling, like some sort of faith towards that, and then you find a teacher, someone who seems to not be doing as bad as you are, and you can tell it's not like You have to study. You don't just go right into it, and that's why.
hard though, because a lot of people can put off like a false perspective, like they got their shit together. A lot of people, especially in like our culture, so it's definitely hard to find a teacher, especially that you can trust.
Yeah,
because
especially a spiritual teacher, like someone who is like, because I feel like definitely in this modern era, like we've really lost the idea, like, or lost the importance of like the spirit, the self, the mind and the body,
but it's
and then
coming
interconnecting
back. But it's coming back.
Yeah.
It's coming back. There's there's a thirst for this knowledge. The fact that you're asking these questions means that you have a wish inside to be free of suffering, right?
Yeah, exactly.
And so just like Jesus said, through trial and tribulations, you have to pick up your cross.
Yeah.
You have to come to terms with this suffering, this supposed suffering that you're experiencing, and then you have to come to terms with it. You have to walk through the fire. The only way out is through. But that's very easy to say.
Because if you stop, you're dead in the water already. Like, you stop. Well, I mean, if you really think about it, and this is also some very small little tidbits of what I've gotten from Buddhism of like, like when you like involve yourself, it's like hard to take yourself out of it. Because of like that powerlessness, because like if the future and the consequences you have, like any consequences you have, like it's really hard coming to terms with that as a human being, like of walking through it, because like life is all about like, someone asked me like, what's the reason, what's life, and I literally replied, I was like, or like, how do you, what is life? And I'm like, man, you just gotta keep walking. You just keep going, and like I've always thought like I gotta keep going, but like through that you have to have the right mindset in terms of like continue to walk, because like at that point if you just keep walking, like you're gonna come to a certain point where you're lost, and then yourself is lost, and and I feel like all three of us have come to a certain point where we have felt lost.
For sure.
And it hurts.
Yeah,
like,
being lost isn't good.
Hurts.
It's lonely.
Well, but it's a certain amount of suffering, it's a certain amount of heat. And through heat, that heat is required for transformation.
It doesn't feel good.
Yeah.
I say stuff and sometimes I leave out a word or two. It's my downfall. Like I'll leave out a word or two, and I'm like, I'll say it's good, but I really meant it in my head.
As long as you understand, and refining our speech is part of even doing the pod. You get to start refining the way you speak. Because
it's a struggle.
But no, but it's a good. It's like, what else is there to do?
Yeah.
So to answer your question, without my teachers, without the teachings, without the people I practice with currently, at the baby stage I'm at, like my teachers gave me a new life, like otherwise it's, how can you do this on your own? I mean, if everything around you is like the clear light like we were talking about, then why wouldn't you use all the support that you can get? And obviously it's harder to separate yourself because we're very attached to who we think that we are. Well, you think you're just gonna break out of that? You've been developing your ego for 18 years, and you're just gonna all of a sudden just break out of it and then see yourself objectively? No
that's
way.
Scary
That's
as shit.
They call that the terror of the situation. And so slowly you chip away at it with the support of the teacher who can help point things out to you. And you have to develop, but it's not, like you were saying, it's not so easy to find a teacher. There's so many charlatans out there. There's so many people that want to abuse, but
a lot of scammers, man.
But that's why you have to develop free thinking. You gain knowledge. You have to start to meditate a bit, just simple practices. And then slowly you start to have more autonomy, and then you can actually see people, and you can trust your intuition more. This person doesn't really feel right, like I don't think so. Like if you really have a deep wish and you pray, I mean, that's one thing, you have to pray. What's your source of refuge? That's what they talk about in the Buddhism. What is your refuge? You can call it God, you call it whatever. You can call it the clear, whatever you feel devotion towards that you feel like is bigger than just you.
Yeah.
Something, some sort of, or even just that idea, that feels good to have the idea that there's something that's bigger than just me and everyone, like something that encompasses everything. That's just a good feeling idea. Well, what if you just pray to that and pray like, I'm looking to, like, what's my next steps? You know, like it has to be like, you know, if you're really suffering and feeling that and you really want to get free, you'll naturally you even naturally put your hands together, even if you were never taught that. This is a certain mudra. It's a certain way of putting the body where the energy channels kind of link together in a certain way.
Key.
But
Putting your
but you, like, if you really want to know, if you really want to be free, you will pray, and the universe has to support you in what you want. So if you're saying, please, I need to see the next steps. I'm recognizing I'm suffering. What are the next steps for me to start to learn from this and to start to move forward? That's a prayer, and the universe is going to give you things. And then the universe comes in 5 ways. First, it starts with a whisper. It's very subtle. Oh, you were asking for, guidance. Here it is. And then usually we're like, oh, what's that?
Yeah.
What the fuck? And then there's a knock. It's a little bit louder. Oh, what was that? That's a little bit out there. And then, and it goes all the way to hit, Like you injure your body, like you hit your head on something, you stub your toe. Like, whoa, I was very unconscious. I'm walking around like a robot right now.
Yeah.
That's always right there. Why did I stub my toe on it? It didn't move. I was just being unconscious. But then it goes all the way to shove, where if it has to get really bad, like you have to get, a crazy disease or someone in your family dies. Yeah. And if you need that to start to see, oh, like, I'm alive. I'm in my body. I don't know what's going on. I feel a certain degree of suffering. I want to know what's going on. Who am I really? What is all this? Like, hopefully it doesn't have to get to that point where you have to get to the
it does for a lot of people.
Well, of course it does. But slowly it starts to get less and less. You start to listen to the shoves.
Yeah.
You start to listen to the hits.
Yeah.
So you start to listen to the whispers. Then, even though it's very painful, my life has a lot of pain in it, like a lot of suffering, right? But I'm actively asking for that. And to make the most amount of mistakes necessary, the least amount of mistakes necessary to grow and learn. So I'm willing to make mistakes. I'm willing to go through this suffering, but I want to wake up as quickly as possible and get the learning and get free. I want to make the least amount of mistakes. I only stub my toe on that thing 3 times, and then the next time I'm only stubbing it 2 times. And then next time 1 time, and then eventually I'm not going to stub my toe. Eventually I'm going to get right here. I'm about to stub my toe. I'm like, oh, you've done this 10 times. We don't need to do this to learn anymore. Yeah. And so we have these certain patterns inside ourselves that perpetuate suffering. Yeah. Well, we have to observe ourselves. And if you see a certain pattern 100 times, you might still do it every once in a while, but you're weaning yourself off of this addiction to being unconscious or to suffer. Yeah. We have so many ways that we suffer. We have so many ways of getting what we don't want. Right? But so slowly we have to wean ourselves off, and then we have to, once we grab our attention off of those things, we have to place it on, well, what do you want? Yeah. Now that you're not doing what you don't want, we got it. You know what you don't want. What do you want? Yeah. Exactly. So, but you can't ignore the suffering part. You can't suppress that. That's where your energy is.
Because then you're going to have 2% on what you want and then 98% on all the bullshit you don't want.
Yeah, and then how are you going to invest your energy into that 2% if most of the time you're spending all that energy on what you don't want? Yeah. So you have to reclaim your energy off these so-called negative. They're not negative in the sense that you're bad every time you do them. Like, oh, I'm bad. I'm doing the same thing over and over again. It's more negative in the sense that, you keep doing it over and over trying to get a learning you haven't gotten it yet. But once you get the learning, thank you. All behavior has a certain positive intention behind it. If the idea is that mistakes, we're wanting to learn from them. So even stubbing your toe, you're like, well, I'm hurting my body. That's not a good behavior to have. Yeah. But what if it's trying to teach you every time you do that, it's supposed to be a reminder, get in your body, be aware. So you're doing it, you keep doing it and doing it until you learn. Yeah. Right? So the action isn't bad. All these habits that we do of judging ourselves, we're not bad for that. We just keep doing the same things over and over again until we learn. So that's
what's crazy.
What?
Why do the Catholic fucking priests never fucking learn not to stub their toe? Because I swear they be doing the same shit over and over and over again. This is another thing.
Look, I'm not trying.
Yeah, not just a Catholic priest, just a ton.
Mostly everybody walking around all the time, myself included. I'm doing way less, but I'm still stubbing my toe all the time, and I practice hours and hours and hours a day.
There's levels to that shit.
Yeah, there is. But guess what? that doesn't concern you. The only thing that concerns you is your level,
Oh, I know.
where you're at. But you seeing these other people is a reflection. Because how can you even say that you see where these other people are at? The idea is that they're a mirror. Everyone is a mirror for you, and all you can see is your own reflection. Like, you're not really seeing them unless you're like enlightened and you don't have any concepts and you just see, oh, we're the same. And then the mirror is just like, oh, we're the same.
Oh, exactly.
And then
you can see what they're doing, and you can relate to. You be like, I would never do some shit like that, and you're like, why the fuck would they do some shit like that?
But then like the type of feelings that you have when you see people do stuff, like you're reacting a certain way, like that's you.
Yeah.
Whatever reaction that came out of you, that was brought about by what you've observed in the outside, that's your anger or that's your whatever.
Yeah.
And so the quicker we can like get out of blame, get out of trying to change the world around us, trying to make everyone better, like kind of be a bit selfish in the beginning.
Oh,
like,
sure.
I'm suffering, so thank you for showing me that I'm angry. You know, just by them like saying fuck you. You know, like, oh, I'm angry. If you can get over the fact, okay, whatever, I'm angry right now. So like, kind of be selfish, like, you know, like, oh, I'm like kind of a slave to this person, like they can just control my emotions by saying fuck you. You know.
Yeah.
But then they're doing you a service. They're teaching you. Oh, like I have this like attachment, and then you can start to do the work, and that's it's not vague, but you have to learn how to do that, and it's slowly over time.
To fix a problem, you have to identify the problem in the beginning.
Yeah.
And, it's
And then you
what
have to
you're talking
detach.
about. Exactly.
And then you
to
have to
fix
see,
it,
you're
you
not
have to
the
identify
problem.
it, and then you can fix it by detaching
Yeah,
yourself.
yeah,
from
you're
that.
not the problem, but you do the problem. Like you're
Exactly.
not you're not the
You're reacting
You're
to
not
it.
your behavior.
Yeah.
Right. You're not a toe stubber, but you do stub your toe.
Yeah.
Self-control.
You know.
gotta
Yeah,
control.
no, exactly. That's
Yeah.
exactly like if you have. How can you control the things around you if you don't even have self-control yourself?
Self-control is key. Balance is key. In general.
But
Just
like,
balance
there's
in
also
general.
a certain point where like we also have to realize that like we have no control.
Well, we
So
have
it's
control
almost
of
like-
ourselves. We don't have control of others.
But to a certain point.
Well,
Exactly.
but we actually do have control of
we
ourselves. We just haven't developed that. But we
Well,
have the potential.
Yes, in a
Yeah.
way. Yes.
Yeah.
We do.
We have the potential, but like
We
you know,
can influence
That's like those
others.
people with like enlightenment.
We can definitely influence others. We don't have control of others.
Well, we can
like
only
we have control
we
of
can
ourselves.
we can only influence others if they have that button inside themselves. We can only push buttons, but if they took care of the button, we're just poking.
Yeah.
And there's no button.
Exactly. It's like when they say, "I'm just pushing. Stop pushing buttons." If
Yeah.
they don't have that button, there's no button
Yeah.
to push.
They should like stop trying to blame you and make you wrong and be like, "Oh, thanks for showing me I have a button. Now I'm gonna go take care of that button."
Yeah.
But no, this is what we do. Why are you pushing my buttons? You know, like
you,
fuck
fuck you.
You're making me angry.
Dude, and you're,
It's like you're making yourself angry, idiot.
I
You got a
have
button.
too many buttons. I'm trying to like.
Yeah, you got a whole.
That's
fucking
why I wanted to join
elevator of
Dude,
buttons.
everyone's got buttons.
Trey knows. Just like over the past like few
Stress
few
levels
months,
have been high. That's for
like
sure.
over the past few months, I'm just like, man, I have so many buttons.
Yeah.
And I feel like I'm stubbing my toe, and I feel like I'm lost, and I'm like really trying to figure out like how can I, if I, you know, and I've really started to realize this, like, you know, what I was saying just a second ago of like, how can I control what's around me if I don't even have control of like my inner self, like my emotions,
Your
like,
attention.
my attention,
You know, your breath.
like-
Do you even take breaths throughout the day? Most people are subventilating.
Dude, sometimes I feel like I am. Like, I'm just holding my breath and I'm like... And I have to take that deep breath or my body just automatically is like, alright, hey, you're not fucking breathing, bro. Like, or...
Do you yawn a lot?
Oh, lately I've been like...
I heard a myth that like this was a little kid that when you yawn, it's your body automatically breathing because you're not getting enough air to your brain.
You're subventilating.
Yeah.
People walk around, they don't breathe.
I yawn
like
so
if you try,
often.
hey, do an experiment with me. Just try to breathe in the mouth. Just. Do you realize how many like stops there are for you? Like even you like slowly let it out.
What do you prefer? Do you prefer breathing in through the nose, letting it out through the mouth? Is there a certain way?
Everything.
Just breathing in general.
I know all in the nose, out the mouth, mouth. Experiment. Like but they all have different effects.
I heard breathing through the nose and out through the mouth was the best for you.
Well, it breaks up energy. Everyone kind of naturally, even like when they're like when people are upset, even with no teachings, eventually, couple arguing, they're like, okay, it starts to get too much. They're like this, and they're like, okay.
Yeah, you see it when people are just like done with the fight, and you're just like, and they just walk away.
But that's a certain type of technique. That's a certain type of way to use your tools. That's a certain type of practice to breathe. But what if you intentionally took a simple practice? My teacher says 3 clearing breaths. You take 3 big, one breath in. Here, can we do this together?
Dude, I'm down.
So it's 1 small,
All right.
1 medium, and 1 really big. So
Do I breathe through this?
It doesn't
No.
matter how.
No, so you just take in the nose, small, and then out the mouth. That's 1 small. In the nose, out the mouth, medium. In the nose, out the mouth, and then on the last one, you tilt your head back, and then you really just relax. So try just breathe in. Bigger. And 1 more, the biggest one.
Bro, holy crap, bro. Your breathing is so loud.
Well, you see how...
But but I was like, I'm not trying to compare. I know you're I'm trying to work on that as well.
The loudness
I
of your
noticed
breath.
the difference between me and Trey's and yours. In my mind, just throughout
think
this
it's just
conversation, I
emphasizing
feel
the
like
exhale.
just over these, just this conversation.
Well,
I just noticed that you have this
well, because breathing is I breathe for hours a day.
But I feel like
True,
everybody
yeah.
should start doing this shit.
Yes, that's what I'm trying to say.
This is
but actually, on a serious note,
this is
No, for real.
did you
Yeah.
feel some sort of difference, some sort of altering after the third
oh
one?
Oh yeah, for sure.
sometimes I don't.
It's simple. It's
Yeah.
just easy
What?
to practice.
Bro, Mando's I want to get some of this breathing exercise too.
But everyone understand this is not like rocket science. There's all these higher levels of meditation stuff, but on a basic level, you can get anybody to just take 3 breaths like that. They're called clearing breaths, just in the nose, out the mouth, and just relax. And you get shifted.
Yeah.
It's you don't need to do you don't need to do drugs to relax. I mean, that can help people. I'm not making that wrong. But you don't need to drink in a way. You can breathe. There's other ways to to relieve yourself and transform all this tension inside of us. Because we're tense. The reason that I'm breathing like that, I'm not actually emphasizing. I'm not trying to be louder. I still have a lot of tension, but I'm taking in more air.
Yeah.
And I'm letting it out with less contraction. But I still have a catch. There's a certain amount where I'll stop it, and there's a tension. But there's some people I've seen breathe. It's just full on
Yeah, no, and
they're it's their whole body's breathing.
Yeah.
And so we have to learn how to breathe again.
yeah.
Most people they can't even breathe.
Yeah.
And so and it's understandable. We weren't taught this, but these are just basic things. Start to practice, you know, and then find a teacher. Find someone who can guide. It doesn't have to be the Buddha himself. Just find someone who maybe does Joe Rogan does pranayama. Go find someone who does pranayama, who's been doing it for a year. They're not really.
What does he do?
It's called pranayama. That's what he does. The breathing techniques is the Indian shirt.
Oh, okay.
It's called prana is energy and yama is method. So it's a certain way of breathing and using the prana.
Yeah,
He
but
just breathes in as long as possible, holds it.
yeah,
and
but
exhales.
but go find someone. It doesn't need to be a master. Someone who's been doing a certain thing for a year and take some classes.
Dude,
you know.
I did that in the sauna, like I said, and bro, when it gets real hot and you're doing that shit, you get so dizzy. It's fucking weird. It's just-
Okay, so I know
That
we've
shit's
been talking
weird.
about meditation and breathing for a little while, but one thing I saw on YouTube that's been crazy, and even sometimes on all the other social medias is I know some people will listen to specific frequencies. What are your thoughts on the
The music and all
listen
that
to
stuff.
742 hertz frequency?
I never got super into the frequency and the numerology stuff, and I'm not super into that. I know some people that's their thing.
Yeah.
But I was never I mean, of course, sometimes when I went to bed, I would play the sleeping music. You know, it's nice.
That's
but
weird, bro.
But
Cause no, hold on. You know Extentacion or so whatever? Have you heard of him?
He
The
probably
rapper?
puts his music at a certain frequency.
He
And
does.
the whole music industry is like a down frequency that like
It's so
yeah.
weird. It's like this weird rabbit hole where he like actually like picked certain frequencies that sounded better and like would catch people's more attention and like almost like magic, like you know what I mean, like grasp.
Well, it's a
their
certain
attention.
degree of vibration, and your system.
I don't know much about it, but
your system reacts to vibrations. All these
Yeah,
there's
that's
many
why
and
I
there's many
was, like,
there's
thinking, I'm
electromagnetic frequencies. There's a lot of different things going on that we're not necessarily aware of, although we could be. It's within the realm of awareness.
Yeah.
You know, not just concentration or thinking. What we're talking about earlier, like I didn't mention awareness. Awareness is something that I would distinguish from consciousness. Awareness is just like to be aware. It's just a certain like. It's hard to talk about, but like that awareness can be expanded, and you can start to become aware of these. How can you become aware of the certain like fear you have, but you're not aware of it all the time?
Yeah.
That means that somehow you were able to not suppress it immediately, and you were able to go into it for a little bit, and you become aware of it. But that fear is always there, like these patterns that we have that we run unconsciously are always there. Mm-hmm. So if we want to start to observe these and see them, and then not be under the effect of them, we have to expand our awareness.
Yep.
We have to increase our energy.
Yeah.
We have to, so we have to reclaim our energy. We have to relax, let our awareness expand, and then we can start to see all these things that are running our lives, which is us. We're like, we're doing it to ourselves.
Mm-hmm.
And so there's so many types of practices to develop these things.
Man, dude, like this entire conversation is just like, this is exactly why I wanted to be in it, because like I needed a perspective on someone who is like really starting to touch upon like a completely, it's almost alien to us. Like we always like are joking like, like this is meditation, and like maybe to a certain point and things like that, but like it's very interesting how like all the, there are different traditions, but there's also like definitely like, even in this modern era, that we could just take like 15 minutes to an hour of just like really focusing on ourselves for just for a damn second.
Well, build somewhere. I suggest that people, I have to answer your question. You asked like a question about like, what do you do about this fear? And so may I?
Yeah, go ahead. That was my main question. Yeah. Like really coming to like this fear that I have, like in trying to.
Yeah, I get the fear. I get it in my own way.
Yeah.
And my suggestion is that start a practice, 5 minutes a day, or whatever you can do to where it's not too easy, but it's not so much of a stretch that you're just not going to do it, and then you're like, oh, I've skipped 3. This stuff isn't working for me anyways, and then you prove it's a self-fulfilling prophecy. You prove it that you're not like meditating is for me. I'm too busy. You prove it to yourself.
Yeah.
Like do something that you know that you could do, but it's a bit of a stretch. And then you build from that.
Yeah.
So you have to you have to obviously search for methods. If you don't have,
because I know you've been through a journey, and I'm like, everyone's going through a journey.
Yeah, just like his teachers had a map.
Exactly.
Even though to a certain extent you don't want to consider yourself a llama or anything like that.
I'm not a llama.
Exactly. I know. I'm just saying you've gone down a certain path way more than both of us, and so
I would love to meet your llama.
Just to have this conversation.
Well, my llama's in New York, but you can always come and meet my teacher. You can always. I'd like you guys to come see my place. You don't have to come to a class immediately, or you never have to come. No, you don't have to do anything. But you could at least show you my place and show you around the garden. It's private property, but it's like an open garden. It's like anyone can come. You can come at any time and come and see as long as you're respectful. It's in Denton. It's in the middle of Denton. Trey knows where it is. Were you there? He wasn't in the car at that time.
No, it's over off the square.
Yeah.
Really?
It's like kind of in the middle of the city. It's a little oasis in the middle of the city.
It's crazy because it's like right where you would never expect.
Oh, yeah. No. I think I know what you're all talking about. It's like as if you're going more north, like of the square, but it's on the left side.
Yeah,
yes.
North Locust right there.
Yes,
yeah.
I've seen that place, but I've always like, man, what is this?
Well, it has a certain force field around it. A lot of people say that, like, who actually end up coming to class are like, I drove by this for years and I always looked at it and I was like, what's in there? But I just kept driving, you know?
Yeah,
Exactly.
yeah,
It has a certain force field.
Exactly.
And until you're like ready to go and see that, like you just like people won't walk in there. you
How
know?
many? I mean, like, how many people are like in that kind of?
Well, so
I know
a few
it's-
people live. A good amount of people live. Not a good amount. Not many. But there's like 9 kind of core students who like we've been there for like 4. I've been there 4 years. A few people been there 5, 6, and like we're like hardcore. Like we go to all the class. Like mostly all the classes. Some people teach like. We're all like some of us are starting to like teach some things on the side. We're not like we're student teachers, but we're
Yeah.
starting to like teach some of the methods we learned. Start to try to develop because like the world needs like genuine teachers. So, you know,
Are the
so-
classes free? Like, you just
yeah,
walk in?
most of them are free, or some are really really cheap. But the main practice that we have, the main meditation is free. Obviously nothing's free. Everything is about exchange. So like,
Of course.
like in order if you have a full cup. Right, unless you like you just showing up is a certain exchange, and then you receive something. But eventually, you can't keep just showing up. Then you kind of have to like let go of some things. Like your cup starts to get full, and then you have to start. You know, you have to do the practice. You know, like you have to like detach. But the point is like nothing. Like we don't charge money for that stuff, but like everything in life is about exchange. Like there's always an exchange of value happening. Even right now, we're exchanging energy. You know. And we're both like getting different things.
Yeah.
Like I'm getting a whole different type.
We
like,
shouldn't think
I'm
of
learning
it-
right now from being in this conversation. I'm learning different things that are very relevant for like my path right now.
Don't put a price on it. We're bartering in different ways, like.
But it's
Yeah.
free. It's free on a
Yeah.
money level, but nothing's free.
But even
That's
but
what
even
I'm
then,
saying, you know?
I am spending my time and
Attention.
attention.
That's a certain degree of investment showing up. But then how much can you put your attention into it? Then you're spending more, and then you're going to receive more.
and the next thing you know, you're spending like a lot more. And
Yeah, then
you're
you're like
becoming
me.
detached.
Then you're
Yeah.
like a practice fanatic. My teachers called me a fanatic. Like I'm a bit obsessive. You know, like I practice like 5, 6, 7 hours a day. Like really, you know.
Yeah.
Like, and then but like I need to do more. You know, and then eventually you like that's formal practice. Eventually, like my teacher like doesn't have to do formal practice so much.
Dude,
Eventually, he can just walk around and be in the practice.
I can
So
make
everyone, but my point was the suggestion.
Yeah.
Just start with the 5 minute. Find some practice, something online. It's all everywhere. Don't
YouTube,
just read about it. It's good to read and have knowledge. It kind of gives you confidence. The Western mind needs to understand. So we have to have some degree of understanding.
Yes.
But practically, put aside 5 minutes. Develop some discipline. You know, or 10 minutes, and then slowly increase it over time. You know, and that would be that's my suggestion. Create a practice. Start to slowly build discipline, and there's some teachers online that you can start with. Like that's what I started with. I had some teachers online I would listen to, but then eventually, my need to grow got to a point to where like I had to go and see somebody.
Do you have
and
any
then so when the student is ready, the teacher will appear. And the teacher is life, so life will come to you in whatever way you need it to. If you're sincerely seeking, you don't have to too much worry about that. Like, can I find a teacher? Like, life is the teacher.
Yeah, life
like
provides.
you are your own. Like this perfect being inside of you that knows everything and is imperfect is still there. It's not that you have to go outside to find it. It's that it's a bit hard for us to kind of find that on our own inside. So we need mirrors. We need to see a teacher who's been practicing. My teacher's 75, and he's been practicing 50 years. You know, he's not a regular human being walking around. You know, but I can't even see him for he really is. I can only see +1 from where I'm at. So I'm not even saying I know the guy. I've lived with him. I lived with him for 4 years, and every day. Like not every day, but a lot of time I start to see. Oh, like this guy's on a way higher level than I thought he was, and I keep starting to realize this guy's not a regular guy. But the point is, it's not that it's like that's like him, and then I'm over here and I'm less than. That's me.
Yeah.
I'm looking at myself
Yeah.
in a way like I can only see like a little bit ahead of where I'm at in this person, and like they're showing me different aspects of who I am.
Yeah.
Because if we are this clear light, we're everything. And so all these different rays of light are reflecting back to it. We're looking at all these different...
We are the prism.
We're looking at all these different colors and lights. But it's all coming from this one light, and that's all of us. And so that's my suggestion. Start like a 5-minute practice.
Not only see your growth, but see all of our growth, and hopefully anybody watching is able to see that.
Well, you guys are actively trying to. Everyone is actively trying to grow in all these different types of ways. You guys are trying to do this podcast. You want to. You even stated you want to learn some knowledge, learn more about what's happening, learn more about yourself. You want to self-evaluate. Everyone inherently understands these things. I'm not speaking anything. I might be saying some topics like Tibetan Buddhism and these names of this stuff that's knowledge that needs to be learned.
Yeah.
But when I talk about attention and that you have attention, I'm not talking rocket science here. You guys know that. We all have attention. Yeah. Now, to what degree have you recognized your attention and how much you have? Well, that's a different story. But inherently, we all know this stuff. Yeah. The teachings, no tradition owns the teachings. In the Buddhism, they call it the Dharma. The Dharma, Buddhism doesn't own Dharma. They're teachings. Teachings are just the way it is, the way life is. And different maps point at different ways that things are, but it is what it is. So coming to find out what it is, it's amazing. And you know it. You just have to rediscover it. It's not that you don't know it. You have all the teachings inside of you. You are a living embodiment of the teachings. You're a living embodiment of reality itself. You are the microcosm of this macrocosm of the universe. Yeah. So
you were about to say something else. I thought you were about to say you're the micro penis.
Trey's mind on a completely different level.
No. Because he corrected himself. He said P with the P sound, and then he said something else. Yeah. Sorry, bro. This fucking podcast, bro. You have fucking done amazing, bro. Yeah, bro.
I can't wait to have more, and maybe.
Oh yeah.
Sure. Oh no. Yeah, I'll go for the double slap. No, dude. I mean, I cannot tell you this podcast has opened my eyes, and maybe one day we can do a podcast where it's maybe us trying some of these traditions and meditations or breathing techniques and everything like that, just different ways. Next time on the podcast, I know I don't know if you're student teaching or anything like that, just maybe some small things. I mean, you already did some breathing techniques with us already. That is, I feel like that's necessary for sure. Absolutely 100%, because we definitely need to come to a certain moment where how much attention are we really giving?
Yeah, I definitely think you should go check out the garden, bro.
Dude, I want to.
It seems like your energy's
off.
No, not off, but it seems like your energy's almost being pulled towards it. And I feel like the next step is the garden. Go check it out.
Yeah, at least walk around. It's a beautiful place, and you guys can at least see my place. I'm like a statue freak. I have so many art, and I've spent a lot of money on that stuff. Luckily, I filled up my house, so I can't buy any more things. Yeah. I can buy some little things, but now I'm starting to actually save some money, But I have, and I'd love to show you guys around. And I do lead something called a Rirul Sangchod. It's Tibetan fire ceremony. It's a certain type of fire ceremony, and I lead that, and I can lead beginner. I've been doing it for 3 years, and I do it 5 times a week. And so my lama's given me permission, and my teacher Silver has also given me permission to do them. I'm not claiming to be a teacher, but I can lead the practice, and I can help people to where I can get you to the point where if you liked it, you'd be able to do it on your own. But I have a limit to what I can do. I can only do so much, and then if you ever got so gung-ho or so into it, there's only at a certain point you'd have to go see my teachers or somebody else. Yeah. But for beginning people, I can lead certain things or just simple breathing techniques. But if you really got into it, you'd have to go and see someone with more expertise.
That's awesome, though. Because teaching actually helps you learn in a different aspects.
That's a major reason why I'm here.
It does. It really does. It goes for everything. If I would taught football to someone or teach just like how to do my job. It helps you like pull back from like your perspective and like realize like you could do it this way also.
Yeah.
Or like, okay, he's struggling at this, maybe I can help him that way. Like,
Well,
it
you
helps
have you have to relate to another part of yourself.
Yeah.
Which is this person, and you have to find a way to get in there.
Yeah.
And then in that you learn, oh, like that's another way to do it.
Exactly.
So if I'm saying that you guys are different, you guys are both reflecting different aspects of myself. You're bringing up different attitudes inside myself. Then me trying to get the message across, I have to use different types of words and different approaches for each of you. I learn, and so everyone inherently know that. When you teach, you learn. So it's not like I'm teaching because I want to be somebody. Like I obviously have bits of that because I'm not some perfect being.
Aspirations are normal.
But really, the reason I'd like to teach is because what I've received from we can end it on this. What I've received from my teachers is a new life. Like there's no words, and so I have to give back. I have to give back what I've learned.
Yeah.
Anybody that's like, because I understand how much suffering I still suffer, but how much suffering in the beginning I had.
How much attention
and I didn't,
you had to that
well, and how I didn't know what to do with it.
Yeah.
And then my teachers, like they don't have to do this. They can go be off in the woods and just like practice for themselves and then get free of them for themselves. But they teach others. They give back because they themselves, like, it's a certain degree of compassion. Like when anybody out there, you ask a question like that, you're saying, how do you get from the suffering? And I could tell it's real. I have to answer that to the best of my ability, because that's the greatest thing I've ever received in my life, when my teachers have given me specific instructions on how to get free of my suffering.
Yeah.
So I have to give back. So that's why I lead these things, because it's almost like we talked about, nothing's free. So I've received all these things from my teachers, hundreds and hundreds of hours of retreats and trainings, like hundreds of hours. I have to pay that back.
Yeah.
I have a certain amount of karma, and if I don't pay that back, like, you can pay it back just by doing your practice, transforming yourself, and then just being yourself around others. You
But
don't.
in your own perspective, you want to give back.
Yeah, I have to give back.
Exactly.
I have to. Otherwise, it's like, why did they fill me with all these teachings?
Yeah.
Why did they empower me with all these teachings if I'm not going to keep it going? My teacher was given a new life by his teacher, and it goes on and on. This living, it's called transmission. This living transmission is a force that's passed from heart to heart, from master to disciple, and so it has to keep going. Otherwise, it's like a pond that gets stagnant. I'll get stagnant if I don't let this out and share what I know. Then I'll just get stuck in where I'm at, and then I'll like be self-important and be like, oh, I don't really care. Like, oh, that's not my problem. Like, you have this stuff, or like you say certain things about yourself, and you have like, you're like hating on yourself or something. It's like, oh, it's not my problem. I can see that he's doing that, but I'm not doing that. So why do I care? Like, that's wrong view. Like, that I see suffering. Like, if I don't see that, like, we're interconnected and I have a duty, if I can help, to help in whatever way, then I'm missing the teaching. It's actually missing the point. I'm actually suffering, even if I think, oh, I don't have that thing that he has. But if I don't feel like any sort of relation to how that you're suffering, and I don't feel the need to naturally want to, like, support in some way, that doesn't necessarily. My method is, I'm a talker, so I can elucidate this stuff. Yeah. But a woman, there's also women teachers, but a woman has different methods. They just want to hold your hand, or they just want to console you, right? That's just natural compassion. That's who you are. Yeah. So unless you can start, like, that's what we're trying to develop. Who are we? And then be who we are. And so, yeah, I'm forced. If I'm not helping others in the way that I've been, kind of the gifts that I've been given to give, then I'm not being myself, and then I'm suffering because I'm not being myself. It's not that I'm going to be punished. It's not that, like, my teachers are going to be like, what are you doing? You're not giving back? Yeah. It's that I'm, like, I've given to myself, but if I don't give to others, that means I didn't get the point that the other and me are the same. I didn't get the whole point. The teaching stopped with me. It's
not rocket science. It makes sense.
It makes perfect sense.
Yeah, exactly.
Everyone understands it because it's who you are.
We need more people like that with the same attitude. Yeah. In general.
I think it's also kind of funny with us talking. Well, ironic that we're talking about giving and specifically giving our attention when literally the the whole holidays that we're about to have is technically been surrounded about the idea of
Giving.
the spirit of giving. So like we need to constantly remind ourselves, not just like on Christmas or on holidays and things like that. Like it's like, man, like the spirit of giving is like 24/7.
But it's
because
also,
of
it also ties back to the same concept we were talking about, how it's so fucking shallow. Because now it's just like, man, I gotta buy him a present, I gotta buy her a present, yada yada yada.
Yeah, that's not giving. That's obligation.
Exactly.
Yeah. So I've started this with my parents. Like from now on, like we used to have like we each get a certain amount of money, and then they tell me what they want, I tell them what they want, and we just buy each other. But like I have money now, I can buy whatever the fuck I want for myself.
Yeah.
So I'm not gonna tell you what I want. Give me whatever the hell you want to get me.
Yeah.
And then that's the new thing now. So when you give a gift, the gift is for the giver in one way. The gift is because I want to give you this.
Yeah.
You know. So why are we buying stuff for each other? We're grown adults.
Yeah.
I don't need you to buy me that. I would buy it myself. Give me what you want.
Yeah.
It could be $5. Write a fucking note, you know? Like, you should... It's not a should thing, you know? Like, obviously, we have to reconnect with this part of ourselves.
Yeah.
You know? Like,
But
you know...
I agree with it completely.
Dude,
We've gone on for a while. We're gonna
Yeah.
do another one between us three for sure. It's good. We definitely have to. But man, we're gonna cut it off here, and just thank y'all for watching. So yeah, like, subscribe, and check us out. We'll post these videos every Wednesday. Justin, it's been a pleasure, brother. Clayton's been a pleasure, brother.
Thank you for watching the Trey Swish experience. Please subscribe to the channel to stay connected, like the video to support, why not? It's free. Leave a comment to keep the discussion going, and share with someone who might enjoy the TSE.
I am paying for this microphone.